By now, you've seen the Angela Duckworth TED Talk on grit, the importance of perseverance and passion in order to achieve personal accountability in the face of change, achieve a growth mindset, and really overcome challenges through hard work. Personal accountability is something she really fosters and promotes. Now, Angela Duckworth herself has backpedaled a little and admitted that grit is not everything. And I've given you an article to consider that talks about how self-help books are not enough and that grit can only take you so far. But I also want to give you an argument for social responsiveness as important and personal accountability as actually being a damaging narrative for people who are facing insurmountable struggles, and how personal accountability narratives can lead to victim blaming, where people lack empathy for the struggling by simply telling them to get a little grit, right? And so when considering what to present with you with, I decided to give you an excerpt from a memoir by one of the co-founders of Black Lives Matter, Patrisse Cullors. It's from her memoir, When They Call You a Terrorist, a Black Lives Matter memoir, and I'm simply going to read you a couple of paragraphs from her introduction that really hones in on why personal accountability, when preached more than social responsibility, can leave the individual feeling paralyzed as they face social and systemic ills that they simply can't win against. And so sometimes I pair unlikely texts together to get us to really broaden our critical thinking and see where the connections lie. So hopefully you'll see some connections here and why the writer here would speak out against Angela Duckworth. And in fact, in the additional resources page, you'll see that I include an interview with Patrisse Cullors, where she reads another excerpt from her memoir and speaks specifically about accountability. All right, and so I'm going to go ahead and read an excerpt, and you can find the transcript of this excerpt captioned here on this page as well. I was not expected or encouraged to survive. My brothers and little sister, my family, the one I was born into and the one I created, were not expected to survive. We lived a precarious life on the tightrope of poverty, bordered at each end with the politics of personal responsibility that Black pastors and then the first Black president preached. They preached that more than they preached a commitment to collective responsibility. They preached it more than they preached about what it meant to be the world's wealthiest nation, and yet the place with extraordinary unemployment, and extraordinary lack of livable wages, and an extraordinary disruption of basic opportunity. And they preached that more than they preached about America having 5% of the world's population, but 25% of its prison population. A population which, for a long time, included my disabled brother and gentle father who never raised a hand to another human being. And a prison population that, with extraordinary deliberation, today excludes the man who shot and killed a 17-year-old boy who was carrying Skittles and iced tea. Like many of the people who embody our movement, I have lived my life between the twin terrors of poverty and the police. Coming of age in the drug war climate that was ratcheted up by Ronald Reagan and then Bill Clinton, the neighborhood where I lived and loved, and the neighborhoods where many of the members of the Black Lives Matter have lived and loved, were designated war zones, and the enemy was us. The fact that more white people have always used and sold drugs than Black and brown people, and yet When we close our eyes and think of a drug seller or user, the face most of us see is black or brown. Tells you what you need to know if you cannot readily imagine how someone can be doing no harm and yet be harassed by police. Literally breathing while black became cause for arrest, or worse. I carry the memory of living under that terror, the terror of knowing that I, or any member of my family, could be killed with impunity, in my blood, my bones, in every step I take. And yet, I was called a terrorist.